I really put on this image like, oh yeah, I'm doing well. Like, put on like the mask of like, oh yeah, that test was tough, but did good. Just kind of, again, like escaping, right? These issues like kept on resurfacing because I wasn't facing them. It was really just trying to like search for these temporary means of happiness. This Buddhist concept of like just never giving up, right? That like whatever like my past failures or what I perceive as my failures doesn't define like who I am right now or what future I'm gonna experience. It's really my present moment, like my determination to win in this present moment.
From SGI USA, I'm Cassidy Bradford, and this is Buddhability, the weekly series where I talk with Buddhists from all walks of life about the power we each have to change our lives and the world around us. Welcome, Jesse. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. This is really, it's been really great being able to like chat with you a little bit before. And like, I think that your experience is really relatable for a lot of young people. So I'm excited to hear more of your story. So just to like get things started, we can have an introduction. So you can just tell me a little bit about yourself and your life growing up.
Sure. Yeah. So, hey everybody. Thanks so much, Cassidy, for having me. My name is Jesse Thompson. So I kind of moved around, but right now I'm in southern Indiana in a little town called Columbus. Originally kind of grew up in Chicago suburbs, lived with my family in Japan. That's where I was born, but mostly grew up in the United States. So kind of bounced around a bit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's actually so I got introduced to this practice because I was born into it. So in my mom's side of the family, like my grandmother practices, my great grandmother practiced. So I kind of really grew up with this big Buddhist community, with this, chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, like just all my life. But I think it generally took a little bit for me to kind of develop my practice, but always I knew like, oh yeah, this is kind of part of my community.
So what was it like practicing or growing up around Buddhism, both like in Japan and then eventually the Midwest? Was your Buddhist practice like a big part of your life in your childhood, or more just kind of like family? Yeah,
I mean, man, growing up as Buddhist in the Midwest, you can definitely in a small town, smaller town in Indiana, it's a little bit different. But I think always I knew like part of my identity was being a Buddhist, right? It's just like growing up, I share with all my friends, everything like that. But just understanding that other houses that are also in this Buddhist community, things work a little bit differently there. And also kind of I'm like half black, half Japanese. So Southern Indiana, you don't see too many of those. And kind of growing up kind of standing out a little bit, kind of like a little bit of a different background. So I think as a little kid, I didn't really think too much about it. I don't think as a little kid, I'm just there to have fun, make some friends, and just have a good time. But I think more and more I got into junior high school, around puberty time, when things are always just generally changing and just like, man, am I normal? Like, what is normal? Is this good? Is this bad?
Oh yeah.
Just what is my identity? Any sort of thing that
totally.
kind of makes you stand out. It's just like, wow, like a good bit of it was like trying to be something that I'm not, like trying to be a different version of myself to fit in, and like really absolutely hating that. So like, man, I'm like kind of suppressing like my background. I'm not like, come being outwardly Buddhist. I'm not really being myself. Like I want to talk about whatever Buddhism. I want to kind of make my goofy jokes. But man, I'm trying to play like this cool character type that's just totally not me, just to kind of fit in. And so like, I think towards high school, the back half of high school, I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to live like this anymore. Like I almost like hate going to school because of this. So I'm really just going to try and be myself. Just stop caring about being someone that I'm not, and just really care about being myself. And just that kind of change really helped out. So as part of that was just really kind of being more proud of growing up as a Buddhist in like a place where there's not that many Buddhists, and like really appreciating like my mom for supporting me with this practice, and like, I don't know, just kind of standing up more for myself in that way. And just instant like, man, this feels much better. So and everything like that was gonna happen. Like, people like shame me or ostracize me. Like it just that was all just kind of like my own like anxieties that just never really happened. And that more and more I accepted myself, like people accept me as well. So I think man, kind of figure out that, man, I have this great role as kind of being like a Buddhist in an area that doesn't have that many Buddhists. So that's how I've been viewing it, like, since then. I'm 27 now, so it's been like about 10, 11 years.
Yeah. I mean, because I grew up, I grew up in a Buddhist family too, also Midwest, suburban, kind of like, more traditional conservative area, very Christian. And I also felt a lot of the like, oh, I don't want people to know, or like people would, like I'd have friends come over to the house and hear my mom chanting. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that sound is. But yeah, I think similarly, like, later in high school and definitely in college was when I took more kind of like, I think like I really started actually practicing because I wanted to, and it wasn't just something my family did. But I also felt like, wow, this is like so much better than like trying to like pretend to be something I'm not. For you, like, was there a particular like thing that happened?
Yeah, I say like, I think obviously with like family that practices, I'm like, wow, like just seeing like the struggles that they went through. Like my grandma raised my mom and my aunt, like since they were like babies, like as a single mother, like post-war Japan, and like just really dove into this practice and just went through so much struggle to do that. I'm like, man, like just seeing that kind of change, like really encourages me. Like seeing my mom kind of do the same thing, like single mother, raising a crazy little kid, myself, and like, and just really kind of seeing her life change to that. I'm like, wow, there's something really to it. Then in my personal life, right, it's just like, there's something like called faith like fire, where it's just like, when times get tough, I'm gonna go start chanting, just really praying that like this works out for me in the end. I'm like, wow, like I'm practicing more, I'm chanting a lot more, I'm doing all these great things, and like I'm fired up, right? And as soon as like I win and like I beat whatever obstacle, I come out victorious. All right, cool, things are nice. So I kind of slows back down. I'm like kind of getting back into the swing of things. I think like, so that's just kind of how it's always been for me. Right? And then, but that was until like, I kind of had this big, challenge. I'll preface this by saying like, I grew up just mostly going to school for, again, like friends, just having a good time and playing sports. Like grew up playing football, like that really was my life. Like in terms of like school, of course, like, understood like education is like really important. Like, but I don't really find like, an interest, you know what I mean? There's nothing that really sparked my interest in it. I'm just doing homework too. So my mom doesn't yell at me.
Because you have to. Yeah.
Because I have to, exactly. And like one of my big goals was actually to try to be go varsity in my freshman year. Usually it's like later junior, senior year, you can kind of do that. You'd start like freshman team, JV team, whatever. But this is something that my dad did. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna really try and do that too. So I really trained hard the year before my freshman year of high school. And this is something I was also chanting towards. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to definitely win and do this. And everything was going great. And then I went to get like my physical, just like routine physical, necessary for to even start playing football. And they're like, hey, there's something kind of off with your EKG, right? There's something off with like your heart's like electrical pattern that you need to kind of go and get this like checked out by a cardiologist. So I'm like, okay, it's just it'll be chill. It's fine. It's probably because I'm too healthy. That's something like that. But excuse my corny jokes, but and after like further checkups, it's like you have signs of what's called left ventricular hypertrophy, and that basically means like the muscle in your heart that pumps like the blood across your body is like too developed, which first I'm like, oh, that's great, right? That's a good thing, but really it can kind of cause you to be more at risk of like a heart attack, because like you have more muscle, it's hard for your heart to kind of pump blood to itself, and especially when you're going through like kind of strenuous exercises, they can really put you at risk of like some really terrible, accident. And so because of that, I had to stop playing sports. And that was just just shook my life, I'm like, I had to stop like immediately, and kind of just really changed my lifestyle. Actually, like the year before, there was another kid in Indiana, like about an hour north of where I was, and that passed away just suddenly playing, I forgot it was football, basketball, but, and he had this similar condition that I have. So I'm like, wow, this is really, really serious. That there's like no exception. You just have to really stop. So I was, that was a big shock. And again, like middle school, still like, again, like just kind of like identity issue. Like, man, I'm just a guy who plays football. Now I can't play football. All my friends play football. Now I can't really hang out with them. What am I going to do? And so this really kind of sent me in a spiral at that time. And as always, like, I really started chanting. Of course, like chanting that I could play football again. But also that like, I could just be happy. And like, because I just really didn't feel happy at that point. Just the simplest terms, like, man, I feel really sad. I don't want to feel like this. I want to chant to feel happy. And just kind of continued like that. And I think more and more I became more curious about why my heart, why this happened. I thought I was doing the right things. So I came to understand a little bit more, became more interested in like anatomy and like physiology, like how exercise science works, nutrition, and of course like cardiology and just like healthcare in general. And like, man, those tests that the cardiologist put me through were pretty neat. The results weren't great, but like I think everything else, like the whole experience was pretty neat. And I found that like, wow, I'm pretty interested in like healthcare and medicine in general. So like that year, I kind of changed up like my lifestyle. I changed my exercises to be like more heart friendly, a little bit less intense, but like still I can maintain like my health. I was eating healthy. I learned what fiber was at 14. It's a great benefit to my life, and just really kind of living healthy. And more like, okay, there's classes in high school for this. Like I'm gonna take biology. I can take basic anatomy, med terms. Like, okay, there's a kind of cool like pathway. This will be great for me to start doing. My freshman year of high school, and so I just kind of continue like that. And like chanting just kind of kept like those feelings of like not being sufficient, like not being sufficient in life, out of it, and just always kind of felt like every time I chanted when I was sad, I found something new to like really grow myself towards. And so that kind of gave me like more of this direction where I felt directionless, which that crucial time was really, really important. And and so I just continued like that. And a year later, during my follow-up, we did kind of a similar test, and like really miraculously, like there was no signs like my heart had had that condition. It just really returned to normal. And I was really surprised. Like I didn't know that you could really do that. But it was really like I'm like man, this Nami who didn't get killed is like some crazy work. Like that's amazing. Like I think this is why like my family is so like adamant about this. Like because wow, it really is like super life changing. And so and kind of looking back, it's like I feel like through this one big like struggle that I really thought was like devastating to my life, through just kind of working through it and like expanding my life, I was able to kind of start playing sports again, but I also had gained, this appreciation for, medicine, for like, biology, for, a path in like high school, kind of like a healthy lifestyle as well. And kind of like what I wanted to go to college for. And it's just like to be pre-med. Wow. I really kind of gained all these things, and I really expanded my life through this one like kind of life-changing situation. And that's where I really kind of began to realize like, wow, this is I kind of get like what I want my practice to look like. You know what I mean? And so that's what, I became more proud of that as well. Became more open with sharing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because you really were like seeing it's real.
Exactly. Yeah,
oh, wow, I can actually like, okay, like, yeah, this is something to share with people because it's something that's like actually a part of my life. I feel like this is such a great example of kind of like the way that Buddhists approach problems and like things that, initially seem like, oh, wow, this is like a devastating, it's a loss. We always try to challenge it, like create something beneficial to our lives or to other people out of whatever the circumstances. I mean, because had you not been chanting, it could have easily been like, wow, okay, well, this is my life and I'm not going to do sports and I'm just going to kind of hope that it gets better. But it's, really incredible that not only like, your health totally recovered and you were able to play sports, but then you also like really uncovered this like great interest in your life that now has kind of become the direction for your career. You mentioned like then this helped you figure out like kind of what you wanted to go to college for. So maybe we can talk about like what happened when you hit college.
Yeah, absolutely. I found like that I was pretty good at these classes, and like I would say I was definitely that kid where everyone's really studying for this hard test. And he kind of studies a little bit, but he does pretty well on it, just like kind of out of nowhere. I admit to it.
You're one of those.
I know. I was really messing up like the curb. But that's just how it was. It was high school, so it was like, but So I really kind of continued that way. And got to great school for like biology and pre-med. And I definitely at that point wanted to go out of state. So I went to Cornell University in upstate New York, which is 10 hours away from Indiana. Not to push you. I love Indiana now, you know. But I definitely want.
But at the time, I get it. Yeah, I was like, I'm out of Illinois. Bye.
Yeah. And like, you know, I want to move away from my mom. I want to be independent. I want to go to, you know, the East Coast, which is funny. If you know, like upstate New York, it's still very far away from the East Coast. But I'm from Indiana, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to the East Coast. Like, but it was amazing, great, you know, great change. And yeah, so I went there for bio pre-med, and I kind of went in with like spirit, like, oh yeah, this will be like, I took college level classes in high school. This will be kind of like the same deal. And man, I was so wrong. Like, just really, like that first semester just really kicked my butt. And I think at that point, like in college, it was like a big kind of transition. That like just everything was so different, and I really began to kind of doubt myself. Like, wow, you know, I was just came in so cocky with it too, and just found like, man, am I really like supposed to be here? You know, like all these other kids like that are taking the same classes as me, you know, are just really doing super well, and like I just keep on like, as much as like hard as I try to like study, I just can't get like the scores I'm hoping for. You know what I mean? And I like feel like I'm just can't like keep up. So within like that first semester, I really started to doubt like, man, was this a really good decision to come here? Like, I'm away from home. Man, I'm getting homesick. Like, I'm just so homesick all the time too. And I also add too, like, with the move, you know, I think up to that point, my mom was definitely like that. My foundation for this practice, you know what I mean? She was like, she kind of set the tone for chanting. And then when I moved away, I like, you know, it was new experiences, so I kind of strayed away from it. You know, I found like the local community got connected, but I just kind of got caught up in my own world I just really wasn't like, you know, chanting or kind of studying like Buddhist literature that can apply to like my life like I was, you know, in high school. So it was kind of like I was trying to use my own strategy, which was just kind of wing it.
Yeah.
And it was real. I was really suffering in that case. That whole time too, I really put on this image like, oh yeah, I'm doing well. Like, you know, put on like the mask of like, oh yeah, that test was tough, but you know, did good. Grades are going great. I'm like, I'm not stressed about life all the time because I'm not hitting like these grades I need for med school applications. That was freshman year, kind of going to sophomore year. Really building this great network of like friends, and I played rugby in college, and I was like my team captain, my junior senior year, kind of like doing all these things that like seems like, oh yeah, he's really kind of excelling, but really with this mask of like, man, I'm really falling behind, and I don't know what to do about it. And like if I just kind of continue on this course, I don't know what I could do after college. Like, and this whole time was just like, I was really just trying to escape it. I just wasn't like excelling like I thought I would. And, you know, just feel like I was an imposter there. Like I'm just really faking everything. So just faking like my smile.
Yeah. I mean, that's gotta feel like so, like really lonely.
Yeah.
Like putting on this image of like, oh, I'm like doing really well, but then not being able to like be really honest with others or even like really yourself. Right. It's interesting because I'm also thinking like in some ways it's like parallels like in junior high time too. Like, oh, I'm this kind of person. This is, you know, kind of hiding what's really going on.
No, absolutely. It was like that. There's like that tension between like what I'm really going through, like who I really am, and then what's the image I'm putting up. And like that kind of that tension was really just really suffering from it. And I think like we said earlier, you know, this is like a Buddhist practice to take into your daily life, to face every single obstacle like you encounter, like face on, like head on. And I was doing the opposite actually. On my own strategy, I was you know, finding any means of escape, you know what I mean? Just to kind of like even forget about my current situation, right? And for me, that was like just partying. It was, you know, drinking like most weekdays and every weekend. Just really no moderation. It was turning to, you know, hard drugs. It was, you know, just finding like really like toxic relationships that I could just kind of forget about, like what I was, you know, really dealing with. Just all these things to kind of escape, you know. And every time I used that, you know, maybe I was happy for that moment. Maybe I was just happy for that night, but the next morning I wake up hungover and remembering like, wow, I still have this exam in like 2 days now instead of 3 days. It's 1 day closer. And wow, I still don't know what to do once I graduate. And just kind of, again, like escaping, right? Like these issues like kept on resurfacing because I wasn't facing them. It was really just trying to like search for these temporary means of happiness, where like as to really have this more substantial, like absolute happiness would be to like really face these issues head on. And I just wasn't doing that. And by the time I graduated, still managed to graduate, thankfully. But I really had no plan for what I could do. You know, I ended up not even like applying for med school because I didn't even think it was even worth it to try it.
Wow.
And so I went home, you know, after I graduated, went back to Indiana, moved back in with my mom, and just really like, you know, spilled the beans, right? Just really said like, this is what I'm going through. I don't know what to do. Broke down. And, you know, she really supported me. And I really, you know, just kind of came back to the practice at that point. And I think at that point is where I really started to build my life back up, kind of rebuild my foundation, and kind of turn things around. So,
was there like, yeah, I guess maybe like what made you like get to the moment where you were like, okay, it's time to spill the beans, and I'm gonna like, you know, somehow pick myself back up? Because I think like many people like might be in like that like deep funk and like really struggling to like be able to actually face it.
I think at that point it felt like I was like just stuck in the middle of a jungle, and like there's this, I feel like there's nowhere I could turn, right? And I think at that point, so I was just really kind of scared, and really turned to my mom and like chanting for hope, that like just for something to feel hope, right? Like before, it's just like I'm just trying to be happy, and just gonna start from there and see where that kind of takes me. So there's a quote by Nichiren Daishonin, who's the 13th century Buddhist monk, that we study a bunch, just to keep it the simplest terms, like, and just to paraphrase, he says, "Winter always turns to spring," and based off that line, Daisuke Ikeda, who is a philosopher, who I consider my mentor, generally for his like compassion for the world and like the extent of his actions that they can transform people's lives through the compassion. That's really struck me. But what Daisuke Ikeda says on this line, "Winter always turns to spring," he says, "The key to victory in our lives lies in how hard we struggle when we are in winter, how wisely we use that time, and how meaningfully we live each day confident that spring will definitely come." Just living each day confident that spring will definitely come, that would really, that was like, wow. No matter what happened before, it's like, I was in winter. It's like a long winter. And, but, winter always turns to spring. So I had to live each day like confident that that's going to happen, right? And like, just, really gave me like that sense, like I just need to continue to struggle. You know what I mean? Not escape, just continue to struggle, right? Face my situation, face my reality head on, and just struggle to turn that winter into spring. And so that's where it started. It actually took a little bit longer. I think for a good bit, I still dealt with like that issue with self-confidence. That like, I know winter is coming, but am I really able to like turn this winter into spring? And really felt stagnant because of that like lack of self-confidence. And continue to like just chant that like I could feel some way that like I could get out of this muck, right? But it really just took like just this day-to-day effort to even like advance 1 inch more or 2 inches more, even if it doesn't seem like substantial in that one day. When you kind of count it up like by the weeks, the months that you kind of start advancing, and you look back, you really see that you advanced so much more than you really thought you could. And so I continued like that. I began to figure out like my pathway out through this jungle. And kind of got this confidence that like, I still want to seek going into healthcare. So I applied for this job in my town's ER as a medical scribe. And that gave me the chance to like work alongside doctors and like PAs, MPs in my community. And that was really awesome. And I figured out like, man, I kind of really enjoy emergency medicine. And just like, I really want to like kind of delve deeper into like healthcare. I worked that job for a good bit, and I really figured like if I want to get back into this path to get into healthcare, I would like to get into public health. And so I applied for this program, this graduate school Master's in Public Health program that I could do online as I was working. because I had bills to pay. And, yeah, when I was looking at the application, like the requirements, my GPA was actually below like the requirements. And so I was just like, wow, maybe there's no point then. There's like, if it's below, maybe there's no point. And I think I kind of sat on that for like a good month. As I continued like my daily practice, I just kept on kind of coming back like, man, I should just give it a try. You know what I mean? I should just do my best. Just, whatever it is, just give it my all. And so I did. It took a little bit. It took like a week of like kind of getting into a little bit more and more, doing one section at a time. But it was just determined to like finish by before like the deadline. And I sent it. Had my GPA right there below whatever the requirement was. And I got this email back pretty soon. It's like, hey, we noticed that your GPA is below this requirement. I'm like, oh no, this is the goal. It's like,
they got
we want to give you this
me.
opportunity. they got it. Yeah. Of course, right?
Yeah.
But they gave me this opportunity to like kind of send in this sort of like this referendum, right? Like this kind of this explanation, like, hey, I know this part of my application is not meeting the requirement, but this is kind of like my story behind it. And so I'm like, wow, okay, this is like my chance to like kind of share, all that like I've done, all that I've grown from, why I do believe like, even though I'm below this requirement, that I'm well worth it. I kind of shared that, a bit about like this Buddhist concept of like just never giving up, right? That like whatever like my past failures or what I perceive as my failures doesn't define like who I am right now or what future I'm gonna experience. It's really my present moment, like this present, my determination to win in this present moment. And so I discussed discuss like, of course, like more logistical, like determined to like, study and like get this experience, but like really with this spirit that like, I'm coming in here to like really win. I'm really here to kind of learn and expand my life. And I sent that in and I managed to get in. And so I'm currently in the process of finishing that. About a year and a half in, I graduated by the summer, by June. So and like I was saying, like with like this just determined to like advance even like one step a day. I like kind of looking back, like when I graduated college, I wouldn't even imagine that I'd be this close to graduating from grad school or have this great like clinical experience, and then also to like even try to apply for med school, which I did this past winter. And
oh really? Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
You're like
so that in there.
Whoa.
So we're just waiting to hear back, but like and kind of looking also at like new job prospects as well. I really enjoy this clinical job, but like man, I really want to like explore more public health, like whether working for like health department or like a nonprofit, because I really feel this really humanistic mission behind public health, because it truly is human centered. It's in the business of like making people, like keeping people healthy and like breaking down barriers that keeps people from being healthy, right? And there's so many barriers, and there's so many things that like we could do to like improve that. And so I really feel like this profound sense of mission and kind of helping people, whether it's through clinical medicine as like healthcare provider, as in public health. What can I do to really people of like the suffering of illness, whether it's in the hospital, but most preferably like even before that. Yeah, I feel like that kind of sense of like strong direction has really helped motivate my life. Like, wow, I want to do this. I want to try hard to really help other people. So I know by doing that, like I'm really expanding my life, and that makes me like the most happy I've ever been. Happier than whatever party, whatever dope party I went to. Happier than whatever this person made me feel. Like above any of that, it's like, man, feeling my life advance to help people has like truly been the most like happiest I've been. So that's been like the biggest realization. Like, wow, I could do this my whole life. Yeah. Happily do that my whole life. Yeah.
Like when we had talked on the phone before, like you had shared that like when you graduated, you were just like really like kind of overwhelmed by maybe like shame about like the decisions that you made in college. And I'm wondering like how you feel now about like, talking about like, oh, this is like how college went for me and it was really hard. Yeah. Like, how do you feel about that version of yourself now looking back?
Yeah. I think that's something I've really kind of juggled with or struggled with. because so much we hear is like living life without regrets, right? Like that you should live life without regrets. I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to do that when I have so many, regrets? Like that's how I really view things. Like even at that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely gonna regret this, But
Yeah,
even as
I've
I'm
been
doing
there.
it, it's not like,
Yep.
yeah. But I was like, wow, how can you live a life without regrets? Like that just, for me, that just felt so impossible. But I studied. There's this again from like Nichiren Daishonin. He says that, live like not begrudging one's own life, right? Not begrudging your own life. Wow. So I can really do that and like live a life without like regrets. And he continues with that. It's because like even just a day of life is more valuable than all the treasures in the universe. And that's at the core of Buddhism, is that just a day of life is more precious than any like material benefit, like material cash, car, jewelry, no matter what. It's above all that, just living life is like the most precious thing ever. At that point in my life, like I just really didn't view my life like to that level. And because I had all these regrets, I'm like, wow, I just really sullied it. I kind of messed it up. But it's again like, it's not like the past failures that like kind of define who I am in this moment, but it's just like, am I gonna still, be determined, right, to like, just continue progressing forward in my life, that like it's not these past failures that will define that. It's just, am I still trying to move forward and like expand my life, become the best version of myself that I could be, right? And then more and more I did that, and also the more and more got connected to my Buddhist community, and just heard like the stories and like the experiences of like other young guys like my age that are going through similar stories, and just really get to tell them like, oh yeah, I really kind of get where you're coming from. Like I felt the same way as before as well. This is what I did, and this is how I feel now. Like why I feel so confident in this practice now, and like why I feel so confident in myself and like my direction in life. And so the more and more I did that, I realized like, oh, I don't need to regret, all these past mistakes, because it's really helping me connect with other people that are going through this similar struggle, and that, through that, like those experiences, I might be able to help even one person, win over that moment in their life, and that really painful moment in their life. And just like, just that in itself makes it all worth it. And so, I'm like, wow, it was really, went through it for a reason, went through it for like an amazing reason. And, through that, I think like day by day, just appreciating a little bit more.
Also being, on the like, receiving side, when like I feel so much shame about like, because I'm really hard on myself. I'm such a perfectionist. And then to be able to like share that with somebody and they're like, oh, I've done that too. Like that's human, right? But like the important thing is you're not like, let's not let that just like, cause you to totally be defeated, like let's pick ourselves up and keep going. There's no shame. Like people make mistakes. They do things that are like not always in their best interest. Like that's just part of being human. But I think like the other thing I was kind of thinking about too is like, had you not had to like really like grapple with that kind of like feelings of like inadequacy or insecurity in college to like kind of become the person that is like, I actually am really confident in my skills. Like you wouldn't have, I imagine, like been able to get through this master's program, apply to med school. Like the insecurities would always be there, like you have to kind of like really fight with them in order to like get them out of your life,
Certainly, yeah. They're like, they're still like these negative kind of functions in my life, right? They're still part of me, like, but man, these are things that I really wish I could, transform into something positive, right? What can I do to really face like these negative aspects of my life, like my insecurities, these like decisions that I've made, it really turned that into something that's really actually beneficial to me. These are actually like my strengths, and just really appreciating them in that way. I share like one thing again with like escaping, like from, just trying to seek ways of like escaping from like my present reality. First I'll say like we chant to the Gohonzon, right? And the Gohonzon, scroll, it's written like Nam-myoho Renge Kyo down the middle. But it's really a reflection of our own like Buddha nature. It's a reflection of our own life, like the version of like amazing version of yourself, like the happiest, like most confident, compassionate like version of yourself. Through this chanting, like we're bringing out this means of like absolute happiness, right? It's like a happiness production factory. It's just like that scroll, right? And so when I was kind of seeking these other ways of like becoming happy, I was really, what we say, like seeking the Gohonzon outside of myself, right? Because the Gohonzon is a reflection of your own life. But I was really seeking that in something other than me. Again, from like Nichiren Daishonin, he says, never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself. The Gohonzon exists only within the mortal flesh of us ordinary people who embrace the Lotus Sutra and chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. So I went all this way looking for it. I really just needed, it was right here the whole time, right? But it took that whole journey to kind of realize that.
Your life gets like so much like deeper, I feel like. Every time I like face something really difficult that like I would rather just kind of like, maybe I'd rather like numb out watching TV or whatever. But like when I finally decide like, okay, I'm just gonna like really face this kind of like icky part of my life, whatever, when I go through that process, I just feel like the depth of like my happiness and sense of self, like, it just gets deeper and deeper, and I gain more and more confidence. And I was wondering, you like had kind of briefly mentioned too that, like you still have insecurities, or you still fight with that. Like it's not like it's poof completely gone. So I'm wondering like if you can talk just a little bit about like what it looks like for somebody that's like, maybe is feeling imposter syndrome, and as they like continue to practice, it won't just like poof go away, but like what happens? Why is it easier, even if it still exists? Yeah.
What I found with chanting, I'm drawing forth like these aspects of my life, these kind of negative aspects of my life, and really be able to like kind of identify like and also see the true nature of it. Where is this stemming from? What situations do I feel like are kind of like bring this kinds of feelings up? What kind of things am I really anxious about, like about myself, like, and about external situations? And so when I'm chanting, I'm like really feel like I'm bringing that forward into my life, like right in front of me. And once I have that there, I can really face that and transform that. Again, turn that into something positive for myself, right? Because it's still a part of me, but because it's a part of me, I can change it, right? Even if it feels like something, that's part of my environment, that's the reflection of my own life. And because it is a reflection of my own life, I can change it, right? As I change my life, I'm changing my environment. So that kind of like, the locus of control goes from something external, out of my control, to internal, in my control, right? And so, all these negative things I feel are inevitable or, permanent, are, that's not the true nature of it, right? I can transform them and become like even more happy because of that. Maybe in spite of it, whatever gets you going. Because of it, in spite of it, I'm going to be as happy as I can. And then also I'm going to help other people become happy as well. Because that's what really matters. Like, and through trying to do that, I'm going to really expand my life.
You've shared so much like really incredible like experiences and stories, and I really appreciate the way that you explain Buddhism and like your experience with chanting. It's really like so easy to like understand and grasp. So I hope that like, people listening will really be able to like, connect with what you're sharing. I think, to close out, I wanted to ask you for a piece of advice. So if you were talking to somebody who feels like really like their past decisions are like determining their future and like the kind of person they are, what advice would you give them so that they could really like transform that or overcome that feeling? Absolutely.
I think from my experience, where I feel like I'm stuck in life is either because where like I feel really stagnant in life is either because I'm so nervous about what's the repercussions of like my past causes that I can't move forward. so like the past is holding me back, or I feel so nervous about my future, about what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen if I apply for this job, for this school, for this program, whatever it may be, that I'm scared to even progress. So it's like these two things, like this past, like and what may be my future, may not be my future, are things that like just keep me feeling stuck in life. Yeah. But really, what's like a determining factor is who you're going to be in this very moment, right? Are you going to be, if I call it like my lesser version of myself, is it going to be someone that tries to escape these fears and kind of runs in circles, chasing like, transient things? Or is it going to be someone that's like going to be eyes on the prize, on the bigger picture, and really going for that? Who am I going to be in this present moment? My lesser self or my greater self? And I think that kind of decision in like your present moment is what really, really matters. And just also understanding that what really matters is like the vow that you make to yourself, to your mission, to the world even, of like why your actions are going to, truly be life-changing. I'll share this quote on determination that really, really encourages me by, Daisaku Ikeda. He says, "When your determination changes, everything will begin to move in the direction you desire. The moment you reserve to be victorious, every nerve and fiber in your being will immediately orient itself towards your success. On the other hand, if you think this is never going to work out, then at that instant, every cell in your being will be deflated and give up the fight. Then everything will move in the direction of failure." So that quote, like, man, it's like my present like moment, like my present determination is so important, is so crucial on that. So I'm really going to fight like each day to even like to work towards that. So that's the advice I would give myself in that situation. That's the advice I still look at myself today to like, hey, keep on track, to do. And I truly doing that has like, given me hope and given me just so much, drive to propel my life. And I'm just ever grateful for that.